she's done.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I will be doing another episode recap for today's Days of Our Lives, September 11, 2024. So we see fake Abby. She is, in the Demare mansion, living room or whatever you call it, living space. And she's, having a conversation with Stefano's portrait, right? As they all do when they're about to confess something or what they're up to, right? So she's like, don't look at me like that, I know you're all about family and, I'm doing the same thing. I'm, looking out for my brother and I, right? So at this point, Steve comes in and she is startled. So he comes in and introduces himself as her uncle and all that, of course she's pretending like she's Abigail and she doesn't know him and all that. So he's like, I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about, you and your brother. She's like, yeah. So he's like, I'm assuming JJ, she's like, yeah, who else could it be, right? Just playing it up. So he's like, JJ stands for Jack Jr., right? So she's like, I'm not really good with names and, it's hard to really keep up with everybody. So he's like, listen, I had a friend, Abe, that went through the same thing as you. He did the flashcards and all that. So maybe that's something that can help you with remembering people. But as for now, I'm Uncle Steve and my wife is Aunt your Aunt Kayla and all that, so you don't have to really recognize us by last names. So he begins to talk about, her and Stephanie's meetup and, she said, it was really good catching up. So he's like, my wife told me about a treatment plan that you guys, you said that you was on the phone with her about, but she has no recollection of it. So she's like, that's strange, because I'm sure I spoke to her. So he's like, she has no memory of that. So she's like, maybe she messed up the names, of the different doctors and all that. So, maybe she just messed it up. So he's like, okay, well, he used to have an issue with, identity crisis himself, because at one point he thought he was Stefano, parading as Stefano and all that. So he's like, I understand what you're going through. So he's like, we should meet up at some point for dinner. I'd like to see you later on, right? So he left and she just feel like, listen, Uncle Steve gonna be a problem. And I know he's on to you because you're really giving it off. So we go back to Stephanie, right? Because remember they had a sending off for Everett / Bobby, right? So, she and Jada cremated, they laid the ashes to rest or whatever you call that, right? So Chad shows up because remember he was supposed to come, but because he was with the kids, he didn't show up, in time or early enough. So she's like, I'm really surprised that you're here. So he's like, I'm sorry, I was late and all that shit. She said, like, she understands how it goes. So he's like, did you guys, sprinkle the ashes yet? So she's like, yeah, we already did it, but, nobody else really showed up. But it was fitting because two of us knew Everett or Bobby the best, or what we thought we knew the best. And, it was just fitting that just the two of us was there, right? So they begin to talk about Abigail and her meet up, and she was like, it went well, and they talk about, the past and all that, and it went, it was going good until, she mentioned that she and Kayla had a treatment plan coming up, and, Charlie's like, that's understandable given what she went through, for them to be speaking about that. But she's like, yeah, she didn't think nothing of it until she brought it up to Kayla, and Kayla's like, she didn't talk to her about that. So Chad is like, that's strange. So she's like, maybe Abigail could be lying. So he got in his defensive about it, and he's like, maybe she messed up the doctor's name or something like that, but I don't think she would lie or anything like that, right? So she's like, maybe that's true or everything. So they just drop it. So Rafe is up, people. So Paulina was the first to recognize it, and of course she's in her little excitement, her dramatic self as usual. So she's like, don't go back to sleep and all that, and she just runs off to get Kayla to go check him out, right? So Kayla did come in and check him out. Everything is all right, intact and all that, right? Jada is at Connie's apartment and she's knocking to see if she's there, So stranger luck, the door is open. I don't know how Connie left the door open, but anyways, she went in and she's looking around, seeing if somebody's there, calling out her name still, and she went near to the room that Melinda was being held captive. So she's like, she's about to open the door, and Melinda is in there struggling to get out, and I just don't know how, if it was just 1 second earlier, Jada would have opened the door and found Melinda, but she got a call from Paulina. Paulina telling her that Rafe is up and about and all that. So she just ran out of there. So if only was like couple seconds earlier, she could have catch Melinda and really solve the case. So speaking of Connie, she's at Gabby's office, and Gabby's telling her how the plan went with, her being with EJ and how she's liking it so far and taking Stefan for all she's got, yada, yada, yada. Behaving all foolish again, ruining her marriage. But anyways, Connie has the knife behind her back, and, it's like she's ready to just get rid of Gabby, right? So Gabby did ask Connie if she can look for Melinda, because she needs some notes from her. It's been a while, so she needs to get the notes from Melinda, right, for some campaign or something. So Connie is like, you've been so invested in your marriage and all that's going on with it that you didn't hear that Melinda took a leave of absence. So she's like, what could be the reason? So she's like, maybe she couldn't take the pressure and all that. So anyways, she's like, what do we do now? So she's like, oh well. So at some point, she told Gabby to look for the notepad or something like that, because I guess she's coming closer with the knife to stab her. I don't know. So anyways, she gets a phone call from Paulina, and she's like, Paulina, this is not the good time. So, she's like, it is the good time because your brother just woke up. So she's like, really? So she's like, rushing out of there on her way to see him. So Connie's like, my plans fumbled again. So we see Paulina and Kayla, right? So Paulina is checking in with Kayla. How is he doing? So she's like, he is good. His memory is intact. Vital's looking good and all that. He just doesn't have any recollection of that stabbing, right? So she's like, let's hope that that can process. But I'm just really happy for him. I talked to Abe earlier, and he's ecstatic about it. So we need to celebrate it, right? So we see Jada, and then Gabby did follow in later, but Jada was the first to come in and hug on Rafe, and she's just really happy that he's alive and well. She's been by his bedside for all this time, just really excited that he's up, right? So Gabby comes in and bursts in and hugs him tightly, and she's happy to see him up. And he's like, what really happened? Because he can't remember much. So Gabby's like, you didn't tell him? So Jada's like, no, I didn't get the chance to. So she's like, you've been stabbed in the back, and Jada said you were at the graveside, Abigail's graveside, and she's like, don't you remember? So he's like, yeah, I remember. I was at the graveside, and I was on the phone with Paulina, and that's all I can remember. So she's like, you don't remember who stabbed you in the back? So he's like, no, I couldn't see it. So Gabby just tells him that it was Jada's ex. So he's like, Bobby. So she's like, yeah, he confessed to it. And Rafe is like, has he been arrested? So Gabby's like, he offed himself. He took his life, and he's like, oh well, I guess that's how it ends. So anyways, they're just happy for him that he's up. They're just sitting by his bedside, and he did remember something. Connie's voice, actually, because remember Connie was saying something after she stabbed him at the graveside, right? So Connie heads back to her place, and in the room where Melinda is, and of course Melinda is just terrified that she's still she came back and all that. So she pulled out her gag, and she's like, I thought you would be at work. So she's like, I was, but plans change. Rafe Hernandez is up, and she's like, oh, that put a rain in your parade. So she's like, probably, maybe or maybe not, because, he doesn't remember, he didn't see me from behind and all that. So I don't think he'll remember anything else. So she had a flashback of her actually talking after, she stabbed Rafe. So I'm like, she's not really the brightest bulb in the back, right? So, yes, so she did tell Melinda that, she thought Gabby was gonna be miserable after, she slept with, slept with Stefan's brother EJ and all that. And she thought that it was gonna go down, and but she's gloating in it, and she's taking Stefan for she's got. So it's not going how I planned it. So Melinda's just there laughing, and she's like, Connie start talking to the cutout board of Lee, and she's like, I gotta kill somebody. This can't just go down as it is. Like, Gabby got to pay. So she took out the knife, and I don't know if she was pointing it towards Melinda, but Melinda got terrified. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but I guess we have to stay tuned to it. But don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys on all new recap tomorrow. Bye.